I'm sure a lot of you are hoping, dreaming, that because of the resurgence Battlefront 2 has had in the past few months, because of the increase in the player count, because of the amount of copies Battlefront 2 has sold, because of how many both new and returning players have joined the Battlefront, that one day the live service could be picked up once again and EA could resume development on Battlefront 2. I'm sure many of you have thought that it's such a shame this game was ever cancelled in the first place, that they stopped updating it. They stopped the live service. They stopped adding new heroes, new maps, new weapons, new customization, new everything. And that because of the renewed interest in the game, it would be so cool if one day Battlefront 2 did finally make a return. I'm sorry guys, but I'm here to tell you that day is never going to come. Battlefront 2 is never coming back, and there are a number of reasons for this, some of which are confirmed by former developers, and all of which I'm going to go over in today's video, but fear not, there is hope, because even if Battlefront 2 doesn't return in the way you think it might, there is a chance this game could still make a different kind of comeback. Hey everyone, it's Andrew. If you're new, please subscribe and help support our push for Battlefront 3, but for now, let's talk about why Battlefront 2 is never going to make a return, but what this could also mean for the future of Battlefront games. Before I forget, I wanted to show you guys something. Today's video is sponsored by Displate. Displate is a unique metal poster designed to capture all your passions, like Star Wars, and Boba Fett moments before he falls in the Sarlacc pit. They're a refreshing alternative to paper and canvas posters, and there are over 2 million different artworks in their catalog, including original art or officially licensed designs. I chose this one because I went to see Revenge of the Sith in cinemas for the 20th anniversary, and this is the 20th anniversary poster, and I could mount it on the wall using their magnet mounting system. You don't need any tools, it's safe on your walls, and there's a magnet kit that comes with every Displate. No drilling, no holes, only Star Wars posters. Literally took me less than 5 minutes to put this up on the wall. So even if you're renting, you can remove them at any time without any worry. Look how easy this was to mount versus these other Star Wars posters. I'd much prefer this. These took me hours. This one, less than 5 minutes. You don't necessarily even need to mount them. I just like leaning them up against stuff like this. Delivery only takes 4 to 5 days, and if you click my link in the description and use code Bombastic, you can get up to 37% off. Also, Displate are going to be appearing at San Diego Comic-Con with a Star Wars themed booth. They partnered with Lucasfilm, will be inside the Lucasfilm Pavilion, and even have an event exclusive limited edition Displate. There's only 1,000 of these available, and also 2 other event exclusive designs, so make sure you don't miss out on them at this year's San Diego Comic-Con. Don't forget to use my code Bombastic, click the link in the description, and thanks to Displate for sponsoring this video. Now, even though more players have played Battlefront in the past few months than seemingly ever, EA and EA Star Wars have not said anything public about the resurgence of Battlefront 2, which I honestly think is kind of disappointing. Like, why not just at least acknowledge that this community exists, that so many people have returned to the Battlefront? Why is it radio silence from their channels? For all those wondering, yes, EA, Lucasfilm, and Disney have definitely seen what has happened in the Battlefront community over the past few months. They've definitely seen the amount of players returning to the game. They've definitely seen how many people have bought the game during the Steam sales, which have also confirmed to earn them millions of dollars over the past few months for basically doing nothing, for leaving this 5-year-old game untouched. Money! And as cool as it would have been to see them acknowledge this publicly, acknowledge that, hey, yes, we see that a lot of players are playing Battlefront, it seems like for now their focus is elsewhere. EA are quite known across all of their channels to not really talk much about what's going on in the community unless that game is still being updated or they have a new release coming out. So I'm not necessarily surprised they haven't said anything, but I am still honestly kind of disappointed. But that said, the first main reason that Battlefront 2 is never going to return is a logistics problem. Most of the developers who worked on Battlefront 2 unfortunately no longer work at EA. From what we've heard from former devs, a lot of them left around the time of Battlefront 2's cancellation in 2020. Some of them, I believe, moved on to other projects and other EA studios, but the rest of them now work for completely different publishers altogether. The main example of this is, of course, Dennis Brandvold, the lead developer, the visionary who gave us Battlefront 2, who after the cancellation of Battlefront 2 went on to found his own game studio, Wayfinder Studios. And this is only one part of the reason why EA would never bring back support for Battlefront 2, because simply they and all of the developers who worked on the game have moved on. Yes, in some way I feel like they could reassemble the team, get the gang back together, but it seems like this also would be a bit of a logistical nightmare, considering a lot of the devs who worked on Battlefront 2 are now spread basically in studios all over the world. And if they were to bring back the game now, yes, there may be a few veterans who previously worked on Battlefront 2, but a lot of the devs would be fresh to Star Wars and fresh to Battlefront, and at that point, why even work on bringing Battlefront 2 back? You may as well just make a new Star Wars game. Do it! Second reason Battlefront 2 is never coming back is because of technological limitations. Battlefront 2 is an 8-year-old game at the time of recording this, and the game also doesn't have a current gen console release. The last release on console was for previous gen, PS5 and Xbox One, and from what we know about the development was already pushing the limits of that hardware. Based on what we know from comments from former developers, there were storage limits. For example, on PlayStation, their allowed size was hitting its limit, and the game already takes something like 120 gigabytes to install. With that said, hero selection and map rotation were also apparently pushing the limits of the hardware, and adding more to these would introduce technical problems that would potentially break the game. The game also runs on an older version of the EA Frostbite engine, so if support for Battlefront 2 was to ever be restored, they basically need to overhaul the game, upgrading everything to the modern engine, which seems like too much of a challenge, which potentially won't be worthwhile. But that said, Battlefront 2 is one of the most modded games out there, with mods introducing new characters, new maps, and so much more into the game. So if modders can do it, then why can't the official developers? And I think the problem here is that these kinds of mods don't work on console. For EA and DICE to upgrade the console versions of Battlefront 2 would require a major overhaul, upgrading the game to the modern engine, likely adding more features, and also upgrading to the current gen of consoles in the PS5 and Xbox Series consoles. These are only some of the technical reasons Battlefront 2 is never going to come back. The real problem, and the main reason why I don't think Battlefront 2 is ever going to return, is because of money. Battlefront 2, from day one of release, has been a financial problem for EA. Initially, their idea was to monetize the game with microtransactions, which is part of why Battlefront 2's release was so controversial. With characters like Darth Vader being locked behind a paywall or something like 40 hours of playtime, it was clear right from the get-go that EA had the intention of continuing Battlefront's development into the future for many years to come after launch, and they'd support this with microtransactions. However, Battlefront 2, in my opinion, never fully recovered from the horrendous launch it had. And EA's fix for this was essentially removing all microtransactions for the game just to smooth things over. So basically, from that point on, the only way they were ever making money on Battlefront 2 is if people bought the game. But from what we've seen, that doesn't really work as a long-term monetization model for a live service game. If a game is to have a live service, there needs to be some form of microtransactions to keep people coming back, spending money, and giving the developers the funds to continue development of the game.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And this, I think, is the main reason Battlefront 2 is never going to have support resumed. The game was originally intended to have microtransactions, and since they were removed, EA just can't necessarily earn the amount of money they need to support a live service game like this. Even though, yes, they've earned literally millions of dollars in the last few months with all of the Steam sales, even though they're only selling the game for $4 or $5 on Steam, that's still nothing compared to the amount of money they would be making if the game still had microtransactions and had a viable long-term business model that wasn't scammy, didn't rip off consumers like us, and constantly added new content to the game, such as purchasable cosmetics. Battlefront 2 was meant to be a game that was supported by microtransactions, and because they're no longer in the game is a challenge to monetize. The only way they make money is by people buying the game. And when you compare this to a game like Fortnite, which is free to play, but Epic Games earn all their money through microtransactions, through people buying cosmetics in the game, you can see where the clear difference is. Fortnite, being the prime example, receives consistent themed updates. Players are essentially incentivized to return to the game, play the new content, spend some money, which can then be put towards creating the next update. Now, EA certainly didn't go about this monetization model the correct way when initially launching Battlefront 2 in 2017, as they locked content behind the paywall that should have been accessible to all players. However, I feel had they done the cosmetic route only, for example, not locking Darth Vader behind the paywall, but unlocking different Darth Vader appearances behind a paywall, then the game might have honestly still been alive to this day. But this is essentially the main reason Battlefront 2 is never going to have new updates. EA just simply can't earn enough with the monetization model that exists currently in Battlefront 2, only relying on sales of the game to fund future updates. In some ways, the game being for sale for only $4 or $5 is EA basically just cashing out, just being like, hey, we made this game 8 years ago, we may as well just put it really cheap and earn as much as we can from the cheap sales. It's like Battlefront 2 is in the bargain bin. It's an old game, and they're just trying to earn as much as they can from it for as little work as possible.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
But that said, I think there is honestly still hope for Battlefront 2. A few former devs in the past few months have also commented on the idea of a Battlefront 2 remaster, which I imagine would essentially take all of the content that's in Battlefront 2 and repackage it into a new release, a new game. And if they were to do this, they could apply a new monetization model to Battlefront 2 altogether. Perhaps the remaster could be free for all players who already own the game, but could also have additional updates and cosmetics you could purchase for an extra price. As the last few months have demonstrated, there is clearly still interest in Battlefront, in the future of the Battlefront franchise, and still interest in Battlefront 2. And I feel like if a new release like this was made, it could be a huge success with the correct monetization model. But please just don't rip us off. Please don't make us pay full price for a game we've already bought, possibly twice if you own it on console and PC, and then also lock stuff behind a paywall as well. That would be incredibly scammy, and I'm sure is the direction they're not going to take following what happened with Battlefront 2's launch. If EA ever end up doing anything with Battlefront 2, whether that's a remaster or just go ahead and make Battlefront 3, I think they need to tread very carefully around how they monetize the game. Because I think everyone is still sensitive to what happened in 2017, to the version of Battlefront 2 we got back then, and would never want to see something like that happen again. I really don't see a way the devs are just going to be like, hey, guess what? Battlefront 2 is back. We're updating the game again. But I do still think there's a chance of a remaster or a remake somewhere down the track. And if they don't do that, well, they'd better do Battlefront 3. Thanks again to Displate for sponsoring this video. Don't forget to click the link in the description and use code Bombastic to get up to 37% off. For more Battlefront, watch this video here. Come follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Discord, and TikTok. And thanks for watching this. Always remember,
Stay bombastic.